Venezuelan government rejects measures by the U.S. administration and extreme right wing. In Myanmar, death toll rises to more than 1,000 after 7.7 magnitude earthquake shook the center of the country on Friday. A new wave of U.S. executed airstrikes hit several locations in Yemen on Friday, where at least one death has been reported from the aggression. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro denounced the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the Trump administration against the Venezuelan productive system, condemning that these actions were requested by the Venezuelan extreme right wing. During the installation of the National Economic Council, the President made a call to confront the economic war announcement promoted by the government of the United States and the Venezuelan extreme right wing. He also stated that Venezuelan migrants are victims of the sanctions and the economic war that forced them to emigrate. In this context, the Venezuelan head of state reiterated that in spite of the sanctions and economic blockade, the Venezuelan people have achieved in the first quarter of the year an economic growth of 4.5% in the gross domestic product.
In its opportunity, the criminal economic sanctions condemned by the entire Venezuelan public opinion were carefully requested by a few unspeakable individuals who have pretended and believed that by causing economic harm and consequently causing social harm to their country, our country, which belongs to all Venezuelans, they are going to have a bed of roses to reach political power in Venezuela and become the saviors in some cases of national history. Since the history we have lived through has shown that it is a crime against an entire country, against an entire society to have requested or supported sanctions against the economy and the healthy functioning of the national productive mechanism.
President Maduro also condemned the violations of human rights suffered by Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador.
Venezuelan migrants are doubly victims. In Venezuela, we're victims of the sanctions and the economic war that forced them to migrate as economic migrants. And now, they're victims of an embarrassment by pretending to qualify them as members of a gang of murderers, the Tren de Aragua criminal group that was defeated in our country, and pretending to qualify, as the Nazis did with the Jews, all Venezuelan migration as a migration of criminals. This is not a migration of criminals. I come out in defense of Venezuelan migrants. It is an economic migration of decent, productive working people.
Decente, trabajadora, productiva.
President Maduro also pointed out that there is a market dollar that must be respected in order to establish the mechanisms to defend it.
Tenemos un viejo enemigo, el dólar de guerra.
We have an old enemy, the war dollar. We're going to fight against all the mechanisms of robbery and speculation. There's a market dollar, some call it the official dollar. It is a mistake. It is not a dollar because we did not establish it. It was established by the market. It is a mistake. Those who love Venezuela do not stimulate under any aspect the war dollar, the parallel dollar. Those who love Venezuela respect the market dollar, which we built in this year of fighting for the new exchange system. It is a battle over who can do more. The war
una
dollar
batalla, un
or the
pulso.
construction of a market
¿Quién
dollar
puede
that
más?
benefits
¿El dólar
economic
de guerra
stability,
o
growth,
la construcción de un
production,
dólar de
trade,
mercado
and the
que beneficie
satisfaction
la
of the needs
estabilidad
of a
económica,
country?
el
Let's
crecimiento, la
think about it.
producción y la satisfacción de las necesidades de un país?
In El Salvador, Cristo Sal, a 25-year-old human rights organization, has issued a report deeming the deportation of Venezuelans from the United States to prisons in El Salvador as illegal. Moreover, they say the refusal by the administration of President Nayib Bukele to disclose the identity of the said prisoners is a violation of human rights according to international law, which tantamounts to a forced disappearance or kidnapped. They argue that no person can be arrested in anonymity, for it is a violation of a basic right like communicating with relatives and lawyers or receiving visitors while in prison. We stay in Venezuela, where President Nicolás Maduro received the Arab Muslim community at the Miraflores Palace to celebrate the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The Venezuelan president emphasized during the meeting that the times of Ramadan have served to pray for the people of Palestine and its independence. He also stated that both peoples are united in the struggle for freedom and justice. For his part, the spiritual guide of the Caracas Mosque thanked the president for his firm opposition and support to the Palestinian cause during all times where the Zionist regime has criminally attacked the people of Gaza. The meeting was part of the closing of the holy month of Ramadan, which represents one of the fundamental pillars of Islam.
Y nosotros en Venezuela sentimos un gran agrado.
And we in Venezuela feel a great satisfaction that the Muslim community coexists and lives in peace in our country, Venezuela.
Ustedes son venezolanos, al igual que todos nosotros.
You are Venezuelans just like all of us, and Venezuela will always have the doors open for the Muslim community, for the Muslim people everywhere, to continue living together in holy peace and harmony.
Para seguir conviviendo en santa paz.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Myanmar authorities reported that the death toll after the 7.7 magnitude earthquake exceeded 1,000 people. Authorities confirmed that the number of people injured is estimated to be at least 2,376 in the Mandalay region, while in the towns of Sagaing and Kaikous, at least 300 people have been reported missing under the rubble. The authorities also declared a state of emergency in the regions of Sagaing, Magway, Shan, among others, for being the most affected by the disaster. Meanwhile, search and rescue efforts continue for those missing due to the collapse of buildings and cracks in the ground.
The death toll will increase. In some places, buildings collapsed and rescue operations continue. I also went and checked. I would like to request our people to support and help us, as we need to provide rescue operations widely. I have declared a state of emergency in all affected regions and opened all assistance from other countries. Recently, there have been emergency aid from the AHA Center, ASEAN Coordination Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management. And I allowed India to send aid to us. I would like to invite every organization, every people to provide aid. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the earthquake also hit Thailand, where residential buildings and offices were evacuated. Public broadcaster Thai PBS reported the collapse of a 30-story building under construction in the capital, which housed around 50 people, 7 of whom managed to escape while the rest were trapped. According to the latest information, at least 10 persons have been found dead at the scene. Heavy rainfall along the U.S.-Mexico border has caused devastating flooding, claiming at least 3 lives in Texas and 1 in Mexico. In Hidalgo County, Texas, over 35 centimeters of rain led to widespread flooding and hundreds of rescues, with Harlingen recording an unprecedented 54 inches. Across the Rio Grande, Reynosa, Mexico, bore the brunt of the storms, with an elderly man drowning in the floods. The city saw severe inundation, forcing 172 residents into temporary shelters. Neighboring towns like Rio Bravo and Miguel Alemán also faced significant risks. As the rain subsided Friday, emergency teams in both countries continued rescue and recovery efforts, assessing the extensive damage caused by the deluge. In other news, in Bolivia, the Ministry of Health launched a campaign aimed at facilitating the diagnosis of cervical cancer, the most common type of cancer in the country, using molecular technology. The aim is to detect the curable disease in time. Our correspondent in Bolivia, Freddy Morales, tells us the details.
To the permanent campaign aimed at early detection of cervical cancer, the Bolivian government has added molecular technology that allows 2 diagnoses, called co-testing, to be performed in a single session.
The sample collection is unique and allows us to perform the diagnosis with both tests in order not to inconvenience our patients and, especially, to give them the security of only taking the sample on a single occasion. With this reality, co-testing is practically accessible to all women.
With the incorporation of new technology, it is hoped that women will be more confident in coming forward for the tests, which are recommended to be performed once a year.
We only took the sample for the pap smear by looking at the cytology, the cellular characteristics that we could see in the tissue that we could see in the uterine cervix, and in this case what we do is to complement it with a molecular biology test. If we find the papillomavirus, we have the possibility of identifying the genotype, which is the main cause of cancer.
For the time being, the new technology is applied at the Enlace Institute, where samples are also received from all over the country, which are also taken and processed free of charge.
The health personnel are trained so that they can make a correct sampling to make the molecular diagnosis, because nowadays we are talking about molecular biology for the diagnosis of the human papillomavirus. And how do we combine this information with the pap smear?
The state campaign against cervical cancer, in addition to free diagnosis, includes the vaccination of girls and boys from 12 to 15 years of age for prevention purposes and in the perspective of controlling the papillomavirus.
This campaign is called 90-70-90. It is related to what really matters to us women. The measures for us are that 90-70-90. It's as simple as that. Those are our measures. It's 90% of girls vaccinated against human papillomavirus between the ages of 10 and 15, 70% of women having a high-yield test at age 35 and again at age 45, and 90% of women with cervical disease receiving treatment.
Cervical cancer affects more than 13,000 women each year. The male is the transmitting agent of the disease, which is why they are included in the vaccination program. To facilitate the fight against this disease, the government authorized several years ago that women should have a working day for the sole purpose of going for the test to detect the disease.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
We have a second show break coming up, but first we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. A new wave of U.S. executed airstrikes hit several locations in Yemen on Friday, where at least one death has been reported from the aggression. Yemeni media reported on Friday the death of one person and 3 wounded after enemy attacks on a farm located in the Saada governorate northwest of the country. The U.S. Army claimed responsibility for the attacks, which also hit the district of Sana'a, south of the capital Sana'a, as well as several points in the governorate of Jauf. The United States has intensified aggressions against the Arab country in recent weeks on the direct order of President Donald Trump, in explicit support of Washington to the Israeli criminal entity. Patients in a Gaza hospital were evacuated on Thursday to the United Arab Emirates for specialized medical care. The World Health Organization, WHO, in collaboration with the UAE, successfully evacuated 81 patients and 107 companions in the latest humanitarian mission. However, the World Health Organization estimates that 11,000 to 13,000 people, including over 4,500 children, remain in urgent need of medical evacuation. The reopening of the Rafah crossing during the ceasefire marked a critical development for medical evacuations, allowing over 3,500 people, including 2,000 patients, to leave Gaza for essential treatment abroad. However, with Israel's resumption of military operations in March 2025, the closure of the Rafah crossing has become a renewed concern.
Bashir is the only survivor of the family after the bombing of their house. She became a quadriplegic. After that, she stayed at the hospital for 47 days and then was released. Now she's suffering from paralysis and can't walk. She also suffers memory loss and also has a hole in her throat that she breathes from. Thank God it's an incredible feeling that we were able to have the referral for her, so she can walk again, if not fully walk. I'm totally fine with 90%, but at least she can walk again so she can depend on herself and catch up with her studies, chase her life dreams, and become the dentist she always wanted to be. Hopefully God will help us make her happy and make her able to continue her life path.
The Palestinian Resistance Commission warns that Israel has confiscated more than 52,000 hectares in the occupied West Bank in the midst of the commemoration of the 49th anniversary of Land Day in Palestine. The organization denounced the illegal seizure of properties by Israel, in addition to the issuance of military orders for buffer zones around the settlements, while establishing 60 new security checkpoints. The agency detailed that through these buffer zones, the Tel Aviv regime is attempting to prevent residents from accessing their homes. In an attempt to evict them from their land, dozens of Palestinians are forced to evacuate the area to protect their lives. In Spain, from March 27th to 30th, Madrid hosted the first Comic Con, a pioneering event that brings together more than 100 authors, 36 booths, and 200 signatures in the Matadero, Madrid. Organized by the Madrid City Council and the Madrid Bookstore Association, the fair combines a commercial part with publishers and specialized bookstores and a cultural program that includes talks, presentations, roundtables, and interactive activities. The Comic Con, curated by Elisa Maxlund, is structured around 3 thematic axes: the house, the city, and multiverses, exploring autobiographical narratives, urban chronicles, and new forms of storytelling in contemporary comics. The event seeks to consolidate itself as an annual reference for comic fans and professionals, celebrating the richness and diversity of this art form in the Spanish capital. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on our social medias. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.